Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 2 of the Dev Diaries focusing on the incoming Economy 2.0 update for Cities 2. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Let's get stuck straight into this second part, shall we? So the first of it is going to cover how rent works. Now, of course, the high rent complaints have been a constant issue since CS2 launched. So to help complement the land value changes in patch 1.10F that released in March, they have now tweaked how rent works. So first of all, they have removed the virtual landlord, so a building's upkeep is now paid equally by all of its renters. And secondly, they have also changed the way the rent is calculated. For those interested in the calculation, it is rent equals land value plus the zone type multiplied by building level multiplied by the lot size and the space multiplier. So you should now see this new equation affect the high rent notifications that I think pretty much everyone has suffered with, haven't they? They've been a pain in the ass since the game first released. So now they shouldn't complain and instead will reduce their spends on other resource consumptions so they can actually afford to pay their rent. So essentially now, rather than complaining of high rent like we've all experienced, your sim should now stop spending money on couches or mega frappe latte cappuccinos or whatever it is they're buying to actually stop buying that stuff and pay their rent. Ultimately, for us from a gameplay perspective, that should translate to much less complaining about high rent notifications. And only when their income is too low to be able to pay their rent will they then complain about high rent or look for cheaper housing or move out of the city entirely. The diary then goes on to say that besides rent, households and companies need to pay for their building's upkeep, which in turn will directly affect the level of the building. So when they pay the full upkeep fee, the building condition increases by a constant amount until the building levels up and the tenants start paying toward the next level. Similarly, if they cannot pay, the building condition will decrease by the same amount until it's in such a poor condition that it collapses. The dev diary doesn't specify here whether or not concrete is still an important resource for a building to collapse, because I know that's how it worked when it first came out. If your city was not producing enough concrete or had huge concrete deficits, building conditions would suffer as a result of that. Doesn't mention that here, but it does say that if they don't pay building upkeep, then that will lead to collapse as well. I don't know if that's instead of the concrete mechanic, not entirely sure. We then come on to what is probably one of the more interesting aspects of the update, and this is the ability to now place the building upgrades within a preset radius of the main building. No longer do they need to be tethered to one of the four sides of the building. This is a great change, in my opinion. I would like to see this go a step further and have the ability to place just the kind of sub-building, if you like. All upgrades can also be removed now by selecting the building as well. Finding the upgrade in the select info panel and then hitting the bin icon will also delete the sub-building, so you don't have to delete the entire campus anymore. You can now pick sub-buildings to delete individually. They can also be deleted via the bulldozer tool as well. You can also pick them up and move them and turn them on and off as needed if you decided you don't actually need that extension for the time being without wanting to delete it. Then goes on to say that sub-buildings like the elementary school playgrounds just need a pedestrian path connecting to them to the rest of the city, while sub-buildings like the bus depot extra garage will of course need a road to function. So that's really cool. Now we should be able to see much more customizable university campuses, bus depots, and just being able to add it into that radius. That's a huge quality of life improvement for me. I'm very happy to see that introduced. As I said, a step further would also be nice. Let me just place those sub-buildings rather than always having to have the main building. Great example of this would be placing the library upgrade for the college. Just having a smaller little college library to function as my college rather than the huge main building would be a great improvement. Hopefully we'll see this idea develop over time in future patches as well. Diary then comes on to detail what will happen with existing cities. So we did cover this last week, and I mentioned that during the early access beta testing of this patch with Paradox, they did advise us that we should start a new city. However, this is directly from Colossal Order, so let's see exactly what it is they have to say. So saves from the economy rework will still work, though they expect they will have quite a significant transition period as your simulation adapts to the new changes. When it comes to modded saves, they cannot make any guarantees, of course, and as always, with a major patch like this, you are going to have to wait for your favourite mods to update in line with this patch. Those big patches and changes could break the mod, causing the save not to load, so if you are a modded player, which I'm pretty sure most people playing CS2 these days are using Paradox mods, there are risks obviously associated with that, but you're just going to have to load in and see what it's like. They do go on to say that when you do load up your city and unpause your simulation, there are some things you should keep in mind. You have to remember that government subsidies have been removed, along with an increase in city service upkeep. The cost of running your city basically has just become much more expensive, so your economy is now going to start working with these increased numbers. And don't forget, if you were importing any outside connection service like ambulances or garbage collection or police, you are going to need to go into your service policy panel now and actually activate that service, because of course it's a toggle now, it isn't just an automatic thing, so don't forget to do that as well. And of course, with that also comes the fee that the neighbors charge for that import, so again, more money is going to be leaving your city with this patch. If you are struggling with that patch and your city starts hemorrhaging money, don't forget you can mess about with your taxes, reduce service budgets, or temporarily turn off some more of your expensive buildings if you do need to start saving those pennies. You should notice your demand adjust quite quickly as well, so don't be alarmed if some of your demand bars empty or fill up entirely when you first start playing. With the increase in industrial manufacturing space, your industry will be on a hiring spree that is likely to drive up your residential demand, unless your city already has workers looking for that job. They do recommend, though, just giving your simulation significant time to run and adapt and let all these new numbers settle in and balance out and just let the new simulation catch up. So advice is just load in, let everything play out, make sure you're not going to go super bankrupt, and just let everything rebalance, and then you can adjust your tax rates from this new simulation essentially. Then towards the end of the dev diary, they do kind of lead us on to what is coming in the future. So there won't be a major patch now until Q3. I expect they're going to probably align this with the first anniversary of the game, which will be October, I believe, won't it? So no patch until then, so it's going to be a pretty quiet summer. So they do want to bring us more control with the service imports. We can expect that mechanic to carry on evolving as we've seen with this patch. And they're also going to make improvements to the UI and how the game relays information to us. And then lastly, but definitely not least, the art team has been cooking up some new free buildings for us. And then we can see from the two little spoiler images that it does appear to be something related to garbage, perhaps a new garbage collection point or a smaller recycling centre. And also a new water tower, which is alright. I kind of prefer the look of the water tower from Sunset Harbour, to be totally honest, but can't complain at new free service assets. I'm glad that they're looking to carry on that trend of free stuff added with major updates. Unfortunately, there is no mention of the kind of gameplay updates for this next patch in Q3. That's really what I was hoping for, especially given the feedback that me, Biffer, and City Planner gave to them last month during that kind of call we had with them. I was really hoping for some of those game engine updates to be around the corner in this next patch, being the line tool and the forest brush and some kind of cursor function, not to the full extent to move it, but something similar, and just those general kind of, hour-to-hour gameplay improvements that we're all craving, like the line tool and stuff. But I think they know they can rely on Paradox mods to fix a lot of that stuff, so they're really focusing on the simulation stuff, which I'm not saying is particularly right. They shouldn't rely on the modding community to fix the shortcomings the sequel should have had. But there's no mention of those incoming gameplay updates in Q3, so we'll have to wait and see. But new free buildings is always appreciated, I suppose. Otherwise, that does round off the end of the dev diary. That is it. So let me know what you think of it down below. It's really interesting to read all your comments last week when we covered the other dev diary. There is a video covering part 1 if you are interested in that. And whilst it is cool to see the simulation becoming more refined, and a lot of these high rent notifications and other little annoyances like that now starting to be ironed out, me, the game, it just needs that gameplay update. It needs its line tool and it needs its forest brush, and it just wants all that quality of life, traffic monitor stuff that everyone craves. So still waiting on those major gameplay improvements. That's really the big update for me that I'm just kind of waiting on. So let me know what it is you guys are most looking forward to with this update, if you are indeed looking forward to Economy 2.0. Are all these simulation changes enough to pull you back in, or do you need those gameplay engine improvements as well? Either way, let me know down below. Let's keep that Cities 2 conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe for lots more Cities 1 and 2 coverage on the channel as always. But otherwise, let's thank you all so much indeed for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.